Hey peeps, it's a little bit windy. I'm videoing outside today. Dog needs a play, and you guys will just have to put up with any wind noise that rushes past. I'm very sorry about that. So I hope you're all well, and I wanted to talk a little bit about this J. Scott Campbell fellow. I honestly had no exposure to him. I knew the name, I'd seen it floating around, probably in the same circles as Frank Cho, thinking back on it. And yeah, the guy's good. He's very good. And has, for some reason, picked up a lot of flack from the social justice Puritan cult once more. Presumably not because of anything he's actually done, but because they tried to do something last time, failed. And as we know with them, their failure is usually a good enough reason for them to create a lifetime obsession over rectifying that rather than just moving on. So I saw this question that I tweeted out, which was, when will companies realise that it is not okay to print a J. Scott Campbell cover? Now, this, as I always do, I say I'm going to answer a question and then I have to fucking reanalyse the question first. But this is an example of what I'm starting to call the social justice onion, which is, there are layers of this question which you need to peel off because they're nonsense. But like an onion, if you keep doing that, there's no core to it, and all you're left with is bits of layers of onion that you'd peeled off because they were of no use. So there's no actual core of truth, it's just layer upon layer of presupposition and nonsense. And that's the thing, is when will they realise it's not okay? Well, that's not what she's really asking. She's not even asking a question, she's saying it's not okay. And she doesn't mean it's not okay, because okay just kind of means, oh yeah, that's okay. She means it is bad. Like, you know what I mean? So everything upon everything with this is, it's just superfluous and, I don't know, disingenuous. Now, I looked at this guy's work and saw nothing objectionable about it. I mean, like, I'm not one for the, was it Rule 34 and seeing all these super sexualized pictures of women. It just does nothing for me, honestly. Like, and that's partly my point. In answer to her question, when will they realise it's not okay? My answer is, when women stop buying it as fast or faster than the men do. I speak to about a dozen women about comics semi-regularly. It's not a huge number, which is another point. It's not a huge number of women that are actually interested in comics. It's a relatively small number compared to the number of men, and this is something we keep trying to tell people. Now, there's always room for more people, but that's a separate issue. And that's another layer of the onion, right? So all these women that I know are far more likely to buy a cover of his than I am. I wouldn't buy a J. Scott Campbell cover. I wouldn't buy any of his artwork. Any of his sexualized artwork, and it doesn't interest me. It does nothing for me. Every single woman that I know who's into comics would. They would do so faster than me, and they would also probably buy a copy just to get a variant of his. And they all also draw and like to see sexualized pictures of women, whereas I don't really care. Even the women I draw are not sexualized. They're really quite functional. Diversity in Comics would probably hate the women I draw because they just look kind of normal, maybe a bit more glamorous than in real life, but so do the men I draw. But nothing, it's all artistic, it's nothing really overtly sexual. And whereas the women I know, they prefer the sexualized stuff, which is completely counterintuitive to what these Puritans believe. And that's something they need to get through their heads, is firstly, they don't believe what they're saying, because, if they really had a problem with women and sexualization and stuff like that, well, go and tell Miley Cyrus to stop wearing a strap-on stage in front of children, maybe. Start with that. But we know that's what I mean, that's the onion. Again, they don't believe what they're saying. They're just you peel off that layer because it's bullshit, and then you realise there's just another layer of bullshit under it. So all these women are more likely to buy these these covers and these images by J. Scott Campbell than I am. So the companies will realise it's okay or not okay when they stop doing that, which they won't. And it makes perfect sense, and I don't see why it should be stopped. Because if you look at, like, okay, so why don't I buy the sexualised stuff about women? Well, largely because it does nothing for me. I prefer to see action poses of dudes fighting. That's my thing. And it makes perfect sense, doesn't it? Because the women would buy the sexualised pictures of women, the idealised pictures of women, because... And I would buy the same of men scrapping each other or just looking strong or doing something, cool. Because that's the thing, is like, throughout evolution and history, what traits have men typically been promoted or celebrated for performing? Well, usually ones of intellect, strength, or combat. Yeah? What ones of women evolution and history been celebrated for? Well, nurturing, kind of like social networking, like manipulation, but not necessarily in a bad way, and allure, And I would say that the trait of like cunning is common to both. Like, everybody admires a man or a woman who's cunning, and both of those male and women traits can be heroic as well. That's the other thing, is like a heroic woman can still be alluring, but you don't need her to be like the strong man because you've got the strong man for that. You know what I mean? Like, let her do womanly stuff. So that's I think a large part of the reason why women are more likely to buy this stuff than men are. And I know a couple of like feministy types who do actually buy comics. They do exist, and they buy Harley Quinn stuff, and I buy Wonder Woman stuff, and they look down their nose at me for buying the Wonder Woman stuff because I'm not even joking. They consider her to be a hypersexualized male fantasy. Not Harley Quinn, Wonder Woman. So that shows you the levels of self-awareness that we're dealing with here. But I could probably armchair psychology a lot out of that, but I'm not going to. So yes, women. If women think that J. Scott Campbell's artwork isn't suitable for them, they wouldn't buy it. And they certainly wouldn't... I mean, the only reason I know who J. Scott Campbell is because not one but two women have spoken to me about it on more than one occasion. And in defence of him, and how stupid they think it is, and how much they like his stuff. At a point where I'd never heard of him. And at a point where I then looked him up and thought, well, generic sexy artwork, woohoo. So, that is a small sample of one or two, but in that case, the woman is more likely to buy it than the man, because I'm not going to buy it and have no interest in it, but they are crazy for the stuff. So, yeah, that's the thing. Stop claiming to speak for all women. Stop telling women what they should and shouldn't be buying. Stop misrepresenting to other people what women are and are not buying, and be more genuine in your arguments. I mean, that's the thing, is if you look at the stuff I say about comics, you don't have to deconstruct or superanalyze it too much. Like, I say what I believe, and I say what I'm actually thinking at the time. You don't have to dig too deep into it. You can just argue it head on. With these people, you can't actually do that. You have to, unpack it like I have in order to even get a hope of answering it. So anyway, guys, thank you very much for listening. I would invite you to please check out my Patreon if you're liking my content and want to see me do more videos and more artwork and stuff like that. I want to thank my new patron, Al. I'm not sure, it's Al on Patreon is his name. I don't think I've interacted with him on YouTube or Twitter. If I have, it's been under a different name. So identify yourself, Al. And thank you very much for donating. And thanks as always to Rick, Corwin, Dark Philly and Norrin Rad for their continued support. So I will we'll catch you in the next one, and thank you. Please leave your comments below and share the video around. Thanks, and I'll catch you again next time.